Thanks, Karen.
All right. Welcome, everybody, to Genesis Office Hours number 40. 40 episodes, 40 weeks you have endured me doing this show. So thank you for our live listeners who are showing up once again to support us. And speaking of support, this episode is sponsored by Desktop Server, which is pretty much the best thing you can do for your life if you develop WordPress sites. You can spin up local development environments, and it's pretty much awesome. Okay, I've got two really special guests on today. Now, a while back, I had some California boys on, and we had the sirens in Oakland, and it got kind of ghetto up in there. And today, we've gone all the way up north to find you a couple of Yankees. So, Jonathan Perez, Mike Hemberger, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Hello.
That's my applaud. What is up? What is going on?
Well, you know, just having some fun with Google Effects. And I've got my hat on today because I'm feeling studious. And Todd, you tweeted about whether or not I would be wearing a Santa hat, but I don't have a Santa hat. Kind of a bah humbug like that, so I just threw on my...
graduation cap.
Yeah, my graduation cap. And, maybe we'll play Pomp and Circumstance later. All right. So if you're listening live, you can tweet questions to Jonathan and Mike. Just use the hashtag #GOHchat, and we'll see that and get your questions answered live on the air. If you're listening after the fact to this recorded via YouTube or iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud, then of course you can't ask live questions, but I hope you'll join us in the future for a live episode. All right, so guys, you're like two staples of the Genesis community. You've been around it, or I guess I'll let you tell me. Mike, when did you start working with Genesis?
I'm bad at keeping track of time, but it's been I kind of got into it right away with WordPress. I went on the Woo themes bandwagon right at the beginning. I got into their Canvas theme, and I like changing things around. And then I realized that I hated options panels, and I needed to do things from the inside out. And went to Genesis right away. And I met Jonathan kind of early on too, just looking for snippets, and you know how everybody Googles around looking how to move crap around and stuff. And that's it. I've never really messed with anything else since then.
All right. And Jonathan, what was your entry?
I'm going to have to say the same thing. You know what? It was a while ago. I'm still kind of new to actually WordPress, the whole thing. Maybe like 2-3 years I've been using it. But early on I realized I don't want to have to code every single theme that I do from scratch. It'd be nice to have something to kind of give me a starting point. So that's when I found Genesis. I want to say like a year ago, maybe a year and a half. And I've been meeting awesome people ever since, because it is an awesome community, like
Totally.
Carrie and Mike.
It is awesome. And speaking of not rebuilding the wheel from scratch every time, you created the Genesis sandbox theme. And tell me a little bit about why you decided to go that route versus, say, using the Genesis sample theme or something else as a starting point for projects.
Okay, Sandbox actually started out as a way for me to expedite development, because every time I was working on a website, I was always looking for snippets and different things that I could add to the sites. So I found out that I just kept using the same snippets over and over and over again. So I was like, you know what? I got to make this easier and save myself from browsing Google every 10 seconds. So that's when the idea of the Sandbox came. I did an early on version of it where I had like I guess control panels, like little checkboxes and stuff like that. And then I met Travis Smith. And Travis was like, you know what? I'm going to help you out. Let's code this. And, you know, God bless him. He coded this whole thing, and it turned into the Sandbox. He did a lot of the back end stuff. I did pretty much the front end stuff, and Genesis Sandbox was born.
And is it still in active development?
Well, I still use it for all of my projects. I just haven't updated it in a while, and the primary reason is because it is free, and a lot of work goes into it. So it's hard for me to kind of escape, paying work to start focusing back on it. I was actually talking with someone else to try to kind of redevelop and upgrade it, and we're still talking, seeing it might become a plugin. Not sure yet. We're just in the works of kind of talking out the plans for it. So, but I do use it on every project.
Nice. I used it, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago on a project, and it was a lot of fun to work with, just to have all of that stuff built in and basically commenting out the stuff you didn't want.
Exactly. That's exactly how it's pretty much used. Like everything's already there. You just remove what you don't need. So I highly recommend it.
So, Mike, do you use a base theme for your projects or something?
Yeah. Right now, I just have my own one. I call it Baseline. Seth Spears, who I work with a ton, he actually had me build one for something that he wanted to reuse for some of his smaller local clients, and I took it from there and just started kind of like Sandbox, but putting everything in it that I do. A lot of CSS stuff, basic stuff that kind of annoys me with the Genesis sample default stuff, and some snippets I always use, and that's it. He encouraged me to take my version and sell it, and I think it's the same thing Jonathan's dealing with, the idea of putting your starter thing out there and then knowing that offering it is going to just put more work on you. I just like having a fast thing there that gets me working right away.
Oh yeah, all about that.
Sure. I started a project called In the Beginning. It was a Genesis starter theme, and I put it out on GitHub, and basically it sassified everything, made it mobile first, and the intention is to eventually make it fully translation ready and accessibility friendly. And I put it out there with the intention of I would love anybody to add to it, put a pull request on it, and
how's that been working?
Let it really be a beast of the community, useful to everyone, as opposed to something like you're saying that you've got to take time to maintain, and it's kind of like I've heard a lot of developers say that they will happily put their plugins and make them available via GitHub, but they don't add them to the WordPress repository simply for that support aspect.
Yeah, I've been using a ton of GitHub-only plugins over the past year. I used to be scared of them because of the lack of updates, but now that I feel like I know what I'm doing, there's so much cool crap there.
I put the Sandbox originally was on GitHub with that same intention, Carrie, to kind of say, okay, look, here's something you can start with, but add to it, make it your own. But that didn't really happen. It just ended up being like my theme, and then whenever I updated it, I was like, okay. But I think essentially, you got to kind of use whatever's going to work for you, right? Like if the starter theme works great for your workflow, then use that. That's the whole point. That's why I even made the Sandbox in the first place, because I was like, I need something. Maybe other people need this, but
Well, you hit on a keyword, and that is workflow. And our listeners to this show love to hear about other people's workflows and just see, if there's something of benefit they can add to their own or tweak or whatnot. And when I say that our listeners love it, maybe I just love it and I'm projecting that on everyone that's listening. But tell me, and I'll toss this to both of you, and Mike, I'll start with you. But let's assume you've got a project. We're not talking about the onboarding process or anything, but you're ready to go. You're ready to open up Sublime Text or whatever it is you use and go to town. Yeah. So what's that development through deployment and then ongoing maintenance look like for you?
All right. So I've listened to a bunch of your office hour things, and I think the theme when you ask this question is that it changes all the time. So if you ask me in 3 months or 6 months, it's probably going to be a lot different. But right now, and for the past couple of years, I definitely do start with desktop server. I don't use blueprints for whatever reason. I just have a local site already set up how I want it, and I just clone that site, and it has all the my starter theme and a couple other ones that I might use or at least reference code from. I keep all of my snippets in what is it called? Just Box, I think. Yeah, it's I don't even know what it is. I have the Chrome extension. It might just be that.
Codebox.
No, it's called JustBox. It's a little. I have a link to it. I don't even know. All my stuff is in there.
I've only ever seen it in the browser. There's a little desktop app for it as well.
No, I just open a new window from it or a new tab or whatever. But it pulls snippets from GitHub, from your gists, obviously. So, it's not like they're only in your browser that you can lose things at some point. And that's it. I tend to work with a lot of project managers because I don't like dealing with clients myself very often. So I think Suzanne is out there. Hi, Suzanne, if you're listening. I work with, as of the past couple months, with her quite a bit. And the main person I work with is Seth Spears from spearsmarketing.com. We're redoing his site now, actually. We hope to get it launched by today, but it's not there. But it's awesome. So because that aspect of the workflow, a lot of times we need to go live sooner or go to a staging server. So the project manager or somebody else involved can have access to it. And when that time happens, then obviously I'm off desktop server and we're cowboy coding away.
Cowboy coding.
So once it's out there on a staging server or live server, is it still under some sort of version control once you open it up to a group?
It's just on backups all the time. I use Backup Buddy, or if it's on WP Engine or whatever, we snapshots or backups all the time. I want to start. I'm a big SiteGround fan, so I want to start using their staging, and they have Git on their server. It's just new to me, and I haven't taken the time to deal with it to get some sort of version control online.
All right. Well, Jonathan, I'll kick the same question to you. Do I need to repeat it for?
No, you're good.
All right.
Workflow. Yes, desktop server is definitely the thing that gets me started with everything. I don't use Blueprints either. If I'm doing something from scratch, I would generally set a staging platform locally and then one on my host. Then let's see, what do I do? It's Sublime Text. I have Codebox open, which is it's a Mac app. Stores all of your nice little snippets, similar to what Mike uses, but this is more local. And then that's it. Then I just start styling and doing all my stuff. I use a couple of plugins to expedite a lot of things because me personally, I'm not the type of person who could sit in front of my computer for like 6 hours trying to figure something out. So I'm all about saving my time. So I use a Views plugin, and that helps me manipulate loops to whatever the hell I want them to look like. And recently I just started getting into Beaver Builder, which is my new favorite plugin, and it's just an awesome page builder. So I like to kind of work fast like that. And once I'm ready to deploy, I use the Duplicator plugin, which takes a package. It works with desktop server, so if I want to make a copy of a site, all I do is just import the zip file, which makes it incredibly easy. And then when I want to deploy it, all I do is just click deploy, and then I fill in the little, what the admin is and what the password is, and then I click deploy, and then I sit back for like 5 minutes, and then it's live.
You go get a beer, and then
I do, or coffee, a beer or
Cheers.
coffee.
And,
What was that?
It depends on the time of day.
Exactly. Well, it doesn't. I
was going to say no.
5 a.m.
I have a hard and fast rule of trying to make it at least after 12 p.m. Otherwise, unless you're on vacation, otherwise it's suspect.
Aren't freelancers always on vacation?
Someone always is. What is it? 12 o'clock somewhere?
Yeah, there's a fine country song by that name.
Yeah, I think it depends on how much sleep you got. Like, if you didn't sleep, all right, it's okay to have one. But I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. I would think if you didn't sleep and then had a beer, it might be, nappy night time. But
probably. I haven't slept, so I don't know. This is my first beer of the day.
Well, you're hearing it, folks. The key to workflow for these two Yankees is a beer early in the day. So
There you go.
Whatever it takes. It's beer for getting started and scotch when you ship.
I like that.
And if have y'all seen the scotches for shippers.com?
Yeah.
I have not.
Oh yeah, go to scotchesforshippers.com and it'll just go and then enjoy the output. You can do it after the show. Okay, so I want there's some questions, and by the way, I'm just going to keep asking questions. So if anybody has one, feel free to get it in. But I've got lots of stuff I want to talk to y'all about. Mike, you mentioned your relationship with Seth and working with him. I know it's a lot of our listeners are either solo, working solo, or maybe in a small agency situation. But how did that partnership come about? And is it maybe just share some tips if you could for how to go about looking for somebody to partner with?
Yeah. So the far backstory is I ran a family business totally not related to web design for a lot of years, and it was seasonal. It was party rental stuff, so it was seasonal, and my father and I basically did everything. So winters were off because Jersey, New York winters are not fun, and we didn't really do that much. So that's how I learned to code, because I had so much free time in the winter, and running your own business, obviously you've got to handle your own marketing and all that. So we decided to sell that a bunch of years ago, and that first year of not having a job, I mean, I always was pretty good at making money, but when I decided to give it a go with the web world, I just went crazy on Twitter and Google Plus and networked with everybody and met, the year that I met everybody basically. And Seth was doing his thing and growing his business, which was already established. And he had a local developer that was, I don't want to talk bad because I never met him, but I think he was flaking out or went to go get into other aspects, just wasn't into WordPress that much. And it was right around the time I met Seth, and we were both working on similar projects at the time. So we ended up doing a Skype chat just to go over the types of plugins and stuff that we use, and some snippets we use to do these similar projects. And from there, the relationship went, and I said, hey, man, I'm, looking to link up, and if you ever need any help. So his developer quit, or they went separate ways, whatever, and he threw a project at me. I did it, and we just hit it off, and it's been great. I got to meet him this year in person. We linked up for something. He's from the South. Where is he from? Kentucky, I think.
Yeah. Not New York.
Yeah, not Jersey. Not from Jersey. Come on.
He's a jerk.
Come on.
You're not from New York. You're not from Jersey. You're a jerk. Yeah, so that was it. I mean, we kept doing projects. There's no anything official at this point, and we just got a good working relationship. A lot of trust between each other. He follows through with his stuff. I follow through with mine, and we get a lot of work done, and we make a lot of money together.
That sounds like a good relationship. Having fun and making money together.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Cool. And certainly that trust element, when you know you can depend on the other person to deliver what they'll say they'll deliver. I think that's always the scary part. Like, one, is somebody actually capable of delivering, or are they kind of fluffing up their skill set just to get the work? And two, will they follow through on a deadline? So it sounds like you found a good match here.
Yeah, it's working well.
So, Jonathan, do you mentioned Travis Smith earlier helping you out with the Sandbox project. Do you regularly partner with anyone, or are you pretty much solo?
My whole business model has transformed from like January to now into partnering. Like, that's what I do. Most of my clients, like, I white label all of my work. So when someone needs a design or needs something done, they'll reach out to me, and then I will provide it for them. So I do have a few relationships with some developers out there, and we work together often. And I don't know. I kind of don't go searching for it. I guess being involved in the community and things like that. Like, I get a lot of leads and things, so I like to talk to everyone that I meet. So it just kind of takes off from there. Some relationships I've had for a while, and they've just been providing consistent stuff that just keeps me busy. And then I'm always looking to partner up with new stuff, which is why, here comes a cheap plug, I just launched the new Surefire web services site as kind of like a partner site, not really for the individual like business person, but more for the actual like designer, freelancer, developer who's just looking to get some help with projects. And you could look me up, and then what I do is I help you with your work. They send me task lists, things to do, design, development. It varies tremendously, and it's been working out, and it's been quite the transformation from where I started. So I'm just kind of happy to launch it and just see where it takes me. So yes, I partner with a lot of people.
Well, I've been not watching you in a stalkerish kind of way, but just seeing as your career has morphed over the past couple of years that I've known you, and you're like the Madonna of Genesis. Like there's been so much reinvention of your services. So you started out, freelancing for clients, and then at some point you moved into, I'm going to be the types and views guy, those sorts of projects, and now, and this isn't a criticism. I think it's just this is the process that all of us go through internally. But we've been able to observe you as your website has changed with each change. But can you talk a little bit about why that metamorphosis? Like, did you find yourself either unsatisfied or not making the money you'd hoped that you would make? Like, what has prompted this movement to where you are now, offering white label services to other developers and designers? And do you anticipate that that's somewhere you'll stay?
Yes, I do actually. It started out, to just go back, I was a freelancer, and I've had my company like Surefire Web Services for a while, but I never really focused on it. I was just always like, all right, if work comes, and it is what it is. And then I got into WordPress, and then Genesis, and then this year in January is where it actually kind of clicked for me, where I was like, you know what? I'm kind of tired of doing this like on the side for chump change. Like, let me actually turn this into a profitable business. And that's when I started putting everything out there and tweeting and trying to network and getting more involved in social media. And that change, the Madonna, as you say, all those changes, it was really a journey. It was looking at my website and saying, okay, what works and what doesn't work? What do I like and what don't I like? I love working with views. Let me offer some view services. Let me contact the company and see if I could work something out with them. And I'm actually a consultant on one of their partner pages. Same thing with Genesis. I emailed this was, I think, like a year ago, where you just email them and I'm like, hey, listen, I have tutorials on Genesis. Can I please be on your website? And no one responded. And then after like hounding them with like 10 emails, they were like, okay, fine, we'll put you in the community tutorials. So then I just kind of started pushing myself out there, and basically as the work came in, you kind of take a step back, you look at your business overall as a whole, and you say, okay, this works and this doesn't work, so why am I still offering this? And then you get rid of it. And then I would try something else in. And then I just kept doing that month after month to say, okay, what did I make this month? What can I get rid of? Or what didn't I enjoy doing? And from that process, that's why I've changed so often. One, because I could, because I'm only one person. It's not like a group of people like debating on things. It's like, no, I'll change it. And then second, just interacting with my own clients and seeing the value that they got from me and what they wanted more of was a way for me to say, okay, most of my clients like these services, so I'm going to start pushing towards those services. And then with the new launch, it really ended up being maintenance, because a lot of the clients that I have come back to me for things, not so much to develop a whole site from scratch, but it was like, oh, hey, I can't figure this out. Can you just jump in and help me out with this? And I'd say, okay. And that was happening so often that I was just like, you know what? Let me just make this a service. I think this is maintenance. Let me make some maintenance websites. And that's the new launch of Surefire is maintenance oriented, because that is primarily where I even see it, like being involved in stuff where people need help. People always need support with stuff, and they can spend 10 hours trying to figure out how to do something, or hire me and we'll get it done in a little bit. So that's the journey.
Nice. I respect the trial and error, because that's the way we move forward, and you try things out, and some things fit and some things don't. But you've also given, it's not every week your website is something different or your service offering is different. Like, you give everything the good college try, give this a 6-month run or whatever to see if it's a fit. So I can certainly appreciate that. Let's see, going back to an earlier question, and Mike, this is when you were talking about the starter theme you used and all your favorite snippets and whatnot. Inquiring minds want to know, what is your primo snippet? What's your go-to?
Yeah, I saw that one. I certainly don't have a favorite snippet. I just like having access to put stuff wherever I want it to on a site, or to manipulate the functionality of a site. However, I think go back to what Jonathan was talking about a while back. A lot of times we get into discussions. We're in the Slack group too, the Genesis Slack group. We should probably post a link to that at some point. But everybody always talks about how they do things and how do I do this and that, and we always end up meeting at advanced custom fields versus types and views.
Yes.
I know there's a lot of haters of both of those plugins, but that's our conversations always seem to go that way. A lot of things we hand build, a lot of things we use plugins for, but when you want the kind of in between, those are that's the stuff we end up using. So I have a lot of snippets related to the tools that I use, but no one favorite.
All right. Well, just to be controversial, I'll throw a third one into the mix, and that's the custom MetaBox plugin.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
What is this? What?
Yeah, I think Bill Erickson and Norcross and several people have contributed to that project. But if you just need the, I guess similar to advanced custom fields in the fact that you just need some additions to a post type, not necessarily types and views. You're actually going in and doing all the layouts and
manual labor.
Building
Can I just add to say that the only reason I use these, like, I would love to code everything from scratch and kind of go that route, but I work full time. I have my business and things like that, so time to me is something that I can't spend all the time trying to figure things out. So these tools and these plugins, they help expedite the process, and the main goal is to deliver a product that is good and that your client enjoys and that you can maintain and keep up to date in the while. So I guess that's why I kind of like using those tools. But I also think it's important to learn how they work. You know what I mean? Like, the coding aspect is important, because if one day you can't use that tool, you're gonna have to figure something out. So
yeah. So you mentioned custom metaboxes and fields. That's the plugin you said, Carrie, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I literally was holding my ears when you said that. So yeah, they just
Okay.
for anybody looking for it, they released a version 2. I definitely know all about that plugin. It's CMB2. I think there's links to it all over if you get to the old one. But Rob New and I have linked up to build a recipe plugin called Rich Recipes. It's richrecipesplugin.com, and we were not involved in the development of CMB2, but certainly used it and are involved in it, and got a couple changes made that helped what we were doing, because that plugin is great for rolling into your own thing. So instead of us building our own custom field stuff to input the data, we just grab that and put it in. So it makes it real easy to update our plugin if we even need to. We went a couple different ways with it and tried so many plugins. It's been a year we're working on this thing, and not tried different plugins, but tried different ways to get the data in there. But we knew we wanted it to work clean and easily, and we didn't. We at one point forked the human-made version. That they forked the original custom metaboxes and fields. There's stuff all over the place. So we forked that, and then we were going to maintain our own version. Whatever. Then CMB2 came out, so we said, "Oh man, let's just do this, so we can let all those really smart people maintain that while we use it for what we need to do." and it's been great. So I was hoping to get that plugin launched by now, but we're still working out some stuff as Rob's dealing with flagship and WP SiteCare stuff.
I'm excited about that plugin. I guess I've done a couple of recipe or chef type sites, and oh god, dealing with the zip
There's
list
loads of crap
it's
out there.
terrible. I mean, there's zero flexibility when it comes to really manipulating the data or getting a really custom output from it. So I'm excited to see what.
This is super easy to input the data for the end user, but it uses Gary Jones, who everybody in the Genesis community better know. It uses his template loader, so you can override. So devs like us can override the template without screwing up anything, and customize it. However, it uses real basic CSS, so it mostly inherits the theme CSS, so you can customize it however you want. Eventually, we're building it so we can hook into it and have add-ons in the future. Hopefully, importers and stuff to import data from other plugins that everybody is hounding us to leave. And so we'll get some templates in there and do all that stuff.
Well, keep us posted when that sucker comes out.
Yeah, richrecipesplugin.com. You can get your email address in there for anybody listening. There's a lot of people waiting on it now.
richrecipes.com.
richrecipesplugin.com, yeah.
richrecipesplugin.com, my apologies. We had a question from Jackie, and it's a great question. She's asking what percentage of time do you spend designing versus developing, and I think this is a particularly interesting question for you two, as you're unicorns in the sense that both of you have a great eye for design, but you're on the code side too. So Mike, how would you say your time splits?
Yeah, so I am calling myself a unicorn, as they say, because I don't separate the two. It's one and the same to me. So I don't design anywhere else and then build it out. I just kind of, which is another great thing with working. I got to close this out. My Slack is blowing up here. Hold on. All right, so my relationship with Seth is he gets a lot of good info ahead of time, the whole discovery process. So if it's a client that really is really concerned with the design being a specific way, or we know, you can kind of get a sense that they're going to be picky and change things around, then we might get a designer separately, because I don't do any Photoshop-based design. So if it looks like there's a risk, red flag in that area, then we'll bring somebody else in. But otherwise, we get the colors, the palette, the theme of what they're looking to do, and I just design in the browser and code it as I'm going. Sometimes you got to build functionality before you can make it look a certain way. Other times you can make it look how you want and then add the functionality after. But it's one process for me.
All right.
I'm a bit old school on that. I need the design. I cannot design in the browser. I try too much, but I was originally a designer, so I changed my mind like way too often. And for me to like do it in the browser, I would just undo that, do this again, undo that, do this again. I'd lose my mind. So Photoshop for me is definitely easier. As far as time goes, I mean, it really depends on the complexity of the design. I have a designer that I personally work with only because it's hard to do everything yourself. So, I have a designer and I have a developer. Adrian is my buddy. And, they help out tremendously when it comes to that stuff. And design, I try to not focus so much time on it because it generally changes once you do get into the development side and you start putting everything in. And, sometimes clients don't have a lot of content, that they give you. So you kind of have to, when you're doing the design first, you kind of have to kind of fill that in, and it makes it hard when you are going from like a Photoshop document to an actual development, because then when you start developing the site and they still don't have the content, then you're kind of like, okay, this looks weird, this looks kind of bad.
Yeah.
So It's it's a good balance. I would say maybe like 40-60, 40 on design, 60 on development, only because the design isn't always 100% there, and it's easier to get just like the layout and the look, and then start coding and really filling it in.
Well, that's pretty close to designing in browser. I mean, you're being flexible and not.
Yeah, but I need a starting point, I guess. Like I can't start with a blank, like a sample theme or something on the browser. Like I'll just look at it and go, oh no, what do I do?
You're a jerk sample theme. You're
a jerk.
Forget about it.
Yeah.
That was for Mike Hale. He was waiting for the forget about it.
Forget about it. That's Brooklyn. You got to talk like this. Forget about it.
Yeah, always got to have the hand in the
air.
Three
fingers.
I mean, let's see how many gross stereotypes we can fit into this show.
Oh man.
Let's see. We got a question from Gary, and he wants to know, how do you guys see Genesis and WordPress moving in the next couple of years?
You want to go?
I think it's just going to keep growing. I mean, what is WordPress, like 1/3 of the internet or something? And then, not for nothing, but all these sites that I'm just randomly browsing, I always seem to find one that's built on the Genesis framework.
Oh,
so
yeah.
With the amount of developers in the community creating websites for other companies, I think that Genesis is just gonna, it's a great market to be in, and I think it's just gonna keep growing just because it's so freaking flexible. It has everything. I mean, I don't know what else you would need, but
yeah, my to get specific, my hope for Genesis is that they keep everyone's trust and they provide standards and keep everything up to date. So when we get to CSS4 or HTML6 or whatever is next or in between that I don't have to worry about it, that they keep up with it, they do it, and they do it right. I want it to stay developer friendly, no excess crap, and just handle the stuff that I don't want to deal with.
Yeah, and I think key is that Genesis is a developer-friendly framework. Like, I think a lot of times some people would buy Genesis thinking that they could just put a site together, and then when it comes to the code, they're like, oh, I don't get this, I don't understand this sucks. But what you got to understand is when you do get Genesis as a framework, I mean, that's the definition of it, right? It's like this development thing that you can then start creating off of. It's not really like a drag and drop or a color picker or anything like that. It's a framework. You develop websites off of it, and that's what your child theme is. So I think that's important for people to kind of understand before they just say, hey, I'll get a child theme and this will be easy. You got to know how to code a little bit. Just
true. I just wonder, there's these page builders that come out, and as far as the theme framework goes, Genesis has sort of won that war, and over the past couple of years, when you're talking about commercial theme frameworks. Now, there's things like Underscore or Zerb that are open source that certainly have, I think they appeal to a different audience. But, Jonathan, you touched on something, and that's when, people are coming along thinking, Genesis's build is it super easy to use, and it is if you want it to look identical to the demo. But if you want to divert anywhere from that, there is coding involved, so I just wonder if that crowd will turn away to, some of these drag and drop things that I'm just going to go on a limb and say they produce crappy code. I could be wrong.
It's possible. Well, I mean, I think it depends on the person who's like taking the framework and what they're doing with it. Like me, for instance, I've changed this, like you said, I've changed the site a bunch of times, but I think as a business, you kind of have to go with what works, so you have to be adaptable to change. And a lot of times these do-it-yourself websites, you could change a few things, but you can never really get like what you want, if that makes sense. I mean, you're kind of tied in within whatever they provide you. Like, this is a do-it-yourself framework. There's a spot here, and there's a spot here. and that's all you could do. But with the Genesis framework, you have hooks like everywhere. You can add anything you want, anywhere you want, and it's super flexible. So, depending on who uses it, that's my comment to that.
Well, do you guys have any plans to get into the Rainmaker playground, or is that what's your interest level there?
I have I've done a project on Rainmaker with Seth, and I built a custom theme, and then partway through the process, it was I guess during the beta. I don't know how that really worked because it wasn't officially launched, but they were allowing people in. I don't know. Maybe Seth can answer that. But we found out that Rainmaker would be a good fit for this client. Seth is really into it. I'm kind of on the fence still about it. So we just, so I did go through the process of getting a custom theme on there. It's weird not having access to plugins, and once the code's up there, you can't just FTP in and do things. So that aspect of it is weird. But for a foundation of your business, if it does what you need, then it's cool. I'm leaning on the I'd rather just build it myself with the plugins I know and trust now side of things, but I see it being a good platform for the right business.
That makes sense. I leave all my Rainmaker stuff to Jason Hobbs. He's like the Rainmaker guy. It's GenesisGoodies.com. That
He's
guy
the Rain
is
Man of Rainmaker.
He's the Rain Man of Rainmaker. Yeah, like he started it in the beta version, and then he's just been going with it, and he's the Rainmaker guy. As far as like Mike was saying, development, I'm not comfortable with not being able to do what I want. Maybe it's a control issue. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean the theme we built, I got a lot of custom code in there. There was a lot of custom stuff happening, but I see what you're saying with you can't just do e-commerce on it yet.
Yeah.
Or even when you can, you probably can't do it the way you would want to.
or even
in a custom sense.
Or certain plugins do certain things, and like you're kind of locked into how the Rainmaker does things. So. I think for an end user who needs that, then that's perfect for them. But if you're outside of whatever the Rainmaker does, then you're gonna need something developed, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's not a Rainmaker hate because it certainly does what it does really well. But
Yeah.
for my niche of doing things, it's not seeming to work very well. Seth is texting me right now.
You're in trouble. Well, we've got a fantastic question from Gary Jones, and this is on a topic that we've mentioned quite a bit on the show. But he asked, do you guys use value-based pricing, an hourly rate, or something else for your clients? Now, Mike, I'll let you swing first.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I grew up in a family business, so I my whole life learned what not to do early on, and the hourly thing, which seems to be the key of a lot of business-based talks here. The hourly thing just does not work for me. Maybe some people make it work, but I am totally value-based, and it's kind of a value-first, project-based second. So all the stuff I do with Seth, it's basically, he says, give me your number of what you'll do it for, and I tell him how much it's going to, my cost to do this. Then he goes back and adds whatever he needs to add to it, and that's it. But it's based on per client and per project, and definitely a predefined scope, so nothing crazy gets added during the process. I do some customization and stuff hourly, but I tend to try to avoid that.
Yeah. I used to do hourly. I tried both. I would have some clients that would just drain all my time. So I was like, you know what? I'm charging you hourly. It was that scope creep that used to get me all the time. But now what I did is a while back I was talking to Jesse Peterson, and he told me how to come up with like this pricing scheme that's going to work for you, which was basically, how much do you make a month, or how much do you want to make a month, and then start like dividing it into this hourly rate thing. So I did that just to kind of get a number in my head of what I should charge, and now I do fixed projects because I've done so many freaking projects that I kind of know how long something's going to take me. So I'll add a fixed price to it to kind of say, value-based pricing. But I still keep track of the time just to
Yeah,
keep
me
it in
too,
my head.
definitely.
Yeah.
Do you formally track your time, like you're using a time tracker tool, Harvest, or something to that effect, or are you just kind of notepad, ballpark, and
Depends on the project. Sometimes, I mean, because I use this thing called Red Booth, and it has like a start-stop. So if I remember to click it, I'll go, oh yeah, that's the time. But generally, it's just kind of like, okay, what time am I starting this at? And then I'll do whatever work I got to do, and I'll say, all right, that took me about 4 or 5 hours or something. And then I relate that, like, was that a profitable project for me based on the amount of time that I put in? And that's kind of how I figure it out.
Currently, I use FreshBooks, which I love for invoicing, but I don't love for some other aspects of it. So I'm hoping to change that within the next year. But I use a tool called Chronomate, an app that's it's a time tracker that syncs with FreshBooks, so it pulls in all my projects and lets me run the timer, in sync with FreshBooks. And it, because when your timing is in there, you can generate invoices from the time, and it just works really well for that. So yeah, I'm formally tracking it per client or project or whatever.
+1 for API integrations that marry your data to make life a little bit easier.
Yes.
We've got a question that's getting so many +1s, I can't ignore it. I'm not that I was going to ignore it anyway, but Jackie started it, and this is, also been another frequent topic of discussion here. But the questions of mobile first, translation friendly, or is it translation ready, accessibility friendly? Does that factor into your projects? Is it important to your clients? Because I know you're executing on what your clients hire you to do. Is that on the radar?
Oh boy. Mike, you could go first.
This is not a roast. It's just a temperature taking.
Yeah. Okay. So the accessibility thing is new to me. Not new right now. I know about it, but I haven't paid much attention to it before. Besides the obvious little things like alt tags and stuff for screen readers. But it at this point it kind of ends there. I hope that it doesn't, and I want to learn more about it and get it into it. But let me see, what was the other one? Oh, translation isn't really fitting because basically every site that I deal with is for a business that is only dealing with one language. Blog type stuff, I think it might be a good idea to get into translation stuff. So when it's content that can fit other languages, it's ready for it. And what was the last one? Mobile first. I absolutely do everything responsive, and I'm very picky about how things display at different widths. So I totally pay attention to that. If you're talking mobile first, as in the style sheet, I still do it the old way, where I build for desktop and then I do media queries for smaller sizes at the bottom. I just finished a site with Seth for one of his clients using Brian Gardner's mobile first theme, and at least half a dozen times through the project I debated starting all over with my theme because it was so confusing to do. I understand the concept of it, and it's not that I don't get it, but the flow of building that way is extremely confusing to me. It just doesn't work right with the way I process how things should adjust.
I'll agree with that.
I agree. It's a little bit backwards, because when you think of a typical style sheet organization, you've got your menus, you've got your content, you've got your meta, all those things. But if you look at a style sheet that's mobile first, it's very lean in all of those sections, and then the bulk of your expanding things comes out in your media queries. That's not you're the doesn't fall under the menu structure quite as cleanly. So it is a little bit of a mental shift to work that way. I definitely get that. Jonathan, did you have anything to add there?
You got a few minutes? The accessibility and the language stuff, I really don't deal with too much. It's not much of a concern for my type of clients. The mobile first is probably the most confusing thing I've ever. I always thought, like when people said mobile first, that it was just to do the mobile version first, right? But then there's like this whole process of developing it in CSS, where you have the mobile look, but then you're actually doing the style sheet that's cascading backwards, like you said. So I can't stand that. And the thing with responsive, like my last site was not responsive, and a lot of people were like, "Oh, your site's not responsive. Your site's not responsive." And my whole argument was, well, because nobody cares if my site's responsive. Like the people that are buying from me aren't like, "Oh, well, your site's responsive, so I think I'm going to buy from you." They're not making the purchases or the inquiries on the phone. Granted, there are some industries and there are some websites that should be mobile responsive, but I believe if you're going to do a mobile responsive site and you're going to do it right, then you should have not just make it responsive, but there should be like a mobile strategy. Like, if someone goes to this on your phone, what is the goal? What do you want them to do? And everyone does it. I do it too. Even when I'm making sites responsive, I just put the code to make it look nice on the phone, so that it's readable and stuff like that. But as from like a marketing standpoint, like that's not. I mean, you're not really doing anything. You're just putting all of your content that's this big and you're squishing it like this. So now on your phone, you got this thing where you're just scrolling for like an hour, and then the footer on the bottom. You're like, okay.
For an hour.
Yeah, so if you're scrolling for an hour, there's either a connectivity problem or something wrong.
It was a long post.
For an hour, jerk.
You're a jerk.
You're a jerk.
Don't scroll for an hour.
So, if your website takes an hour to read, you're a jerk.
You're a jerk.
Exactly. That's my whole point. That's what I'm trying to say. So that as far as mobile first, I mean, I do make sites responsive, but I think, if you're going to really do a responsive website, there should definitely be a strategy behind that aspect as opposed to just making it responsive. Otherwise, you're just making it responsive. You're just making it look nice on the phone, which to me is whatever. So my new site is responsive. Right. That's fine.
I can quote you on that. It's just whatever.
It's whatever.
We've got a question, and by the way, if you want to get a question in, you better get it in because we're going to be wrapping up here soon. But Kristen, and well, now I can't call you out because I've said your name, but you may want to get an avatar on Twitter. I would love if I want to see your face, not your green egg. But okay, that said, after I've publicly embarrassed dear Kristen, she wants to know what do you do about microdata, and with Genesis 2.0, just to give a little background to folks who are listening, it included HTML5 support as well as schema markup. And what schema, if you go to schema.org, it basically gives you a way to specify what a piece of information is, whether it's a blog post, whether it's a business listing, all these sorts of details. That's like handing your content to Google on a silver platter. Doesn't have to figure out what it is, you're telling it what it is. So there's some basic schema, of course, dealing with blog posts that comes with Genesis, but have you guys had the opportunity to really deep dive on that with Mike, especially maybe with that recipe plugin?
Yeah, so most of the time I just leave it as default. If there's really a specific business that we're working on that can benefit from schema directed towards it, then I'll use some of the nice Genesis filters to deal with that. Most of the time I just leave it as is. And yeah, the recipe plugin which is not Genesis specific, is totally schema'd out, and Google Recipe Viewer all set up. Rob, I did some of the basic stuff for that, but Rob New, who's everybody knows as the man who wears a lot of hats, but he's an SEO guy too, so he confirmed that everything is right and made a lot of tweaks to that. So it's definitely important, but I think the whole schema thing is still kind of new, and it's not like like when you're choosing your business type in the Yoast local SEO plugin and stuff. There's still not a ton of options, so a lot of businesses end up falling under other, and you can't get specific with the schema.
No.
I don't schema much. I'm not a schema.
I like how you just made schema into a verb.
Yeah,
I don't
much
really
of a schema.
All that often. Kristen, to chime in on that, you can. There's a Yoast. No, I'll have to put him in the show notes later. Yoast has some great tutorials over on his site about how to, specifically with Genesis, customize using some filters to customize the schema on certain post types. So you can check that out. Guys, I don't know how we've already been chatting an hour, but we're like, I regret that last year, or no, it was earlier this year. I was up in Manhattan with some girlfriends, and we were going to try to get together in person and share.
It was my birthday.
Yeah, pop a top, and it just didn't happen. But I regret that, because I see now that we could drag the conversation out quite a while and get some interesting details. So I will, before we wrap it up, I do want to remind you guys to check out Desktop Server. I tweeted a link earlier to a free blueprint for Genesis WordPress sites that I put together. Of course, I didn't actually include Genesis in that blueprint, as that would be kind of uncool. But you can check that out. If you want to learn more, go to desktopserver.com. No, I'm just kidding. Go to serverpress.com, and you can get a 20% coupon off their premium product. They have a free version, but the premium, you can get 20% off with coupon code CDILS-GOH. All right, so guys, where can we find you on the web to thoroughly stalk you later, Mike?
Thoroughly stalk me at JiveDig on Twitter. My real name, Mike Hemberger, on Google+, Facebook. Go away. You can email me on my contact form on thestismedia.com. And I just posted it on the Twitter too, but my styles add-ons for anybody listening, I did a Genesis Office Hours coupon. GOH20 is the coupon code. I tweeted it, and maybe we'll put it in the show notes at the bottom. 20% off any add-ons for the non-coders out there.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right, and Jonathan, where can we find you?
My turn. Surefirewebservices.com is the website. Doing Genesis maintenance and types and views work, things like that. I also did a coupon, so it's GOH20. You'll save 20% on anything that you buy from the site. And I'm also on Facebook. I think it's /SurefireWebServe, SERV. I'm not really on Facebook much, but that's probably it. And Twitter is @SurefireWebServe. I tried to write it in that little name thingy, but it's too many damn letters. So, oh, there it is. No, it is there. Okay. SurefireWebServe.
If you didn't catch any of that, you can go to carriedills.com/podcast and find this episode, which is episode number 40, and I've got links to both of you guys on there so people can follow up. Also, if you want to receive email updates, just a little notification reminder about office hours, you can do that at carriedills.com/subscribe. Gentlemen, an absolute pleasure chatting with you guys today. I appreciate your time and sharing some wisdom. And I mean, we haven't even gotten to talk about your music careers yet, so I think you guys are just going to have to come back on for round 2.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Maybe we'll just have a jam one of these days.
Freestyle session.
Guitar, freestyle, beats, we got it all. This is.
Oh yeah, well let's work up some little wiki-wikis. I wish I could take that back, but this is live.
Live.
All right, everybody. Until next week, have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
Thank you.